Is there any such thing as a bad game? The answer is yes, obviously. In fact, every game is a bad game to somebody. Detroit Become Human is a bad game, Crash Bandicoot is a bad game, Solitaire is a bad game. All games are also perfect to someone. I make videos about media I consider art. I have played hundreds of games in my life. I'm someone who watches countless video essays breaking down the beauty of artistic masterpieces in the world of gaming. And do you want to know what my favorite game of all time is? Resident Evil 6. One of the most disliked and least talked about games in the entire series, and for good reason. It's clunky, it's distinctly not horror, it's hedonistically action-oriented for the sake of wow factor. It's also really heartbreaking. It's a bad game. And it's perfect. To me. Now, I've got to admit something before we go any further. I am quite possibly one of the biggest Resident Evil nerds, so I'm going to be very biased here, and it's been my favorite series for years, so there's that. Not to mention the fact that if Chris Redfield or one of these goobers is on screen, I'm guaranteed to be going ballistic. And I love the mechanics of Resident Evil 6, despite what other people think about its gameplay. Vaulting over random objects in a room just because you can is really fun. I also prefer the game's combat system to Resident Evil 4 even. But that's not really the reason that this game is my favorite in a series with 30 in it. The reason is this. This was the first time in the series that Leon and Chris ever interacted on screen. Two icons of the series finally meeting up, and they fight. And it was cool to watch them fight, sure. The choreography was pretty neat, but more importantly, that interaction led to this.
Chris, wait! We both want the same thing here. All right. The BSAA will handle Ada. You take care of Simmons. Chris! I know you'll do the right thing.
Are you sure we can rely on him?
He's been in this as long as I have. I trust him.
An out-of-place heart-to-heart between two super soldiers. Two characters that were about to snap each other's necks 5 seconds ago are now putting their full trust in each other to do what's right. And the game is full of these moments. Displays of raw emotion in an otherwise admittedly shallow game about gunning down potentially racist zombies and racing motorcycles and various things on fire. For every 10 scenes of a character unloading a clip into an undead skull, there's one scene of that same character just going through it. And this isn't revolutionary by any means. I mean, plenty of other games do this, but Resident Evil 6 is a game that I think gets way more flack than it deserves. Chris's campaign starts out with him drinking himself half to death. Sherry laments her lost humanity at the hands of her parents. Jake has this revelation.
Your father's actions have nothing to do with you.
Yeah, but his blood does. It's the whole reason why we're even here. I mean, come on. You really think that crazy doesn't run in the family? That nothing of who my father was didn't somehow get passed on down to me? You of all people should know that's true. I'm just saying. The man that I am, the things that I've done, at least it all makes a little bit more sense now.
Each of these characters has been put through hell by this series, and I think what makes these scenes so effective is that you're led to believe that they're just stone cold badasses who just get over it. Because that would be easier, wouldn't it? That would make sense. But here they are, arguing and pitying themselves and royally fucking up. Out of all of the main series Resident Evil games, this has always felt the most human. So if it wasn't clear already, I like Resident Evil 6 a lot. I think there's something really special about it. The characters introduced are especially captivating to me, namely Jake, but Sherry's also reintroduced, and she is one of probably my favorite video game characters of all time. I have this thing I do where I cannot like anything to a normal extent, and I am compelled to make a Spotify playlist for everything I take interest in. Music is one of my biggest passions, as art in its entirety is, and there is no language quite as versatile. Music is both the tool and the project. It's both the ends and the means. There is almost definitely a song out there for every possible emotion you can think of. Not everybody has a favorite painter, but everyone has a favorite genre or band or musician or whatever. Music is salve for the wounded, which is to say, Resident Evil 6 is one of the most AJJ adjacent things in the universe. Let me explain. If you've never heard of them, AJJ are a genre-defying band that have been around for a while. I personally adore their music, and I actually went to a concert of theirs for my 16th birthday. I think most people will classify their sound as folk punk, but they have everything from crunchy rock songs to synth pop in their catalog. They have just like an absurd amount of music out there. And yet, despite this, I could probably make a connection between just about any AJJ song you put in front of me and Resident Evil 6. I'm serious. Don't even get me started on their albums as entire entities. I'm getting started on their albums as entire entities. Good Luck Everybody was released in January of 2020 and is one of their least sonically punk albums. However, lyrically, it points the barrel of the gun directly at the dead center of the government. And I don't think you could possibly properly dissect Resident Evil 6 without bringing up its clear anarchist overtones. Resident Evil as a series has always been very anti-establishment, if you can look past its shallow idolization of cops, of course. But 6 is just fuck politicians. There are a few tracks off of this album that I want to point out in particular. Psychic Warfare and Loudmouth have very similar sardonicism throughout their lyrics. Also, side note, I don't really know how to properly splice in the lyrics that I'm quoting and stuff, because I can't be bothered to just read them all out. I'm sorry, there's so many, and also I think it would get really boring. So I think I'm gonna use old Microsoft Sam like text-to-speech. So I don't know, I think that could be fun, because I can't just play I'm gonna get copyrighted.
Editing sludge here. I also wanted to add that another, like, a specific reason that I wanted to stick with the old Microsoft TTS is because I'm like inexplicably attached to it. I'm like emotionally attached. If you couldn't tell from some of my old videos, I'm like emotionally attached to old Microsoft. If it gets old after a while, or the common mispronunciations of most of the words annoy you, I'm sorry, but like, not really. It's very novel, and I think that novelty goes hand in hand with the nostalgia that I want to express in this video, because these are all just things that are nostalgic and mean a lot to me. So I think it works. It's clanky technology that's extremely outdated, and it's not good, it's bad. It's bad technology, but it's also perfect to me. Sorry, my hands are so shaky. Also, I feel like every single time you guys see me, I have more piercings. All right, that's all I wanted to say. So if I won't blame you if you skip over all the TTS. I think they're fun. I like them. It was fun to collect all the text-to-speech audio for all the lyrics. So
here's that, I guess.
You're a loudmouth and a tool, and as it turns out I am too, and you don't need to be a dick about it. Psychic Warfare painted a portrait of you in pastel, red and yellow and orange. This picture that I painted of you is you burning in hell, hell yeah, and then I set it all on fire.
All of the characters in Resident Evil, despite the goodwill that they may possess, are angry. Angry at Umbrella, angry at those fighting back, angry about everything and anything all of the time. Your rage as the player is the greatest weapon you can wield. Chris Redfield, for example, is eternally bitter. Leon Scott Kennedy is as well. There are heroes in the series, because of course there are. I mean, you root for the good guys because they kick ass. They save the day. They have funny one-liners and cool gadgets and compelling backstories. But on a grand scale, there is not a single good person in this entire franchise. They all fucking suck. These people are all awful. The heroes may be more morally aligned with the player, but their kill count is equal to that of the villains. For every family they save, they've destroyed 10 others. Nobody can get along because everyone hates each other, and there's nothing as painfully nationalistic. They're just a bunch of good old-fashioned patriots with guns. God bless. But it's also kind of, I don't know, charming? Maybe charming isn't the right word, but it's always struck me as a little funny, I guess, how childish these people act. They're all so petty. None are immune to their own stupidity, and it's awesome. Of course, realistically, the plots of Resident Evil 6 would be terrifying to live out, but it's kind of hard to stay freaked out when you hear the idiotic interpersonal spats between the characters.
Psychic warfare, I am gonna murder you with my brain. Psychic warfare, every fiber of my being is devoted to causing you pain. Motherfucker, I am gonna kill you with my mind.
I can genuinely envision one of the Resident Evil protagonists saying this and it not being out of place in the slightest. In my mind's eye is a scene of Jake cussing someone out in the first chapter or 2 of his campaign in this exact fashion. Which, by the way, I'd like to take a slight detour here and point out my unabashed love for Jake. He is such a self-loathing little shithead. It's beautiful, truly, how annoying he can be. I love him to death. It also makes Wesker, I think, one of 6 main characters to canonically have had sex, which is just an interesting tidbit. I don't know, 5 of those are just characters with canonical kids, including 2 pairs of couples. And if you're wondering, the exception is Leon, who was mentioned in the movie Damnation to have had slept with Ada at some point in the nebulous past. I know that's completely irrelevant, but I just wanted to point out the fact that most of these characters in this series can be called perma-virgins, and you have no proof that they aren't. Anyways, I'm way off track here. I've covered psychic warfare, but I've only brought up a few short lines from Loudmouth, and that's because I feel like I kind of have to cover a lot of it in one go, so here it is. It speaks for itself in a way.
I am a burnout and a fool, oblivious to all I do. I move my lips when I read and breathe with my mouth open, wide open, and timid, meek, and cruel. This is the best that I can do. I need to speak my truth, yet here I am broken, wide open, my resentment big and strong, and all the things that I can't change feel buckle me beneath the weight. I will drive myself insane with all the things that I can't change. I hate all the things that I can't change.
I have only one thing to say about that. You'll never see someone quite as hopeless as a soldier who's put a bullet through another person's skull. Generally, the rest of the songs on this album carry similar sentiments. For the sake of time and poignancy, I won't cover them in such explicit detail, but 2 more songs I'd like to point out as outliers are Maggie and A Big Day for Grimly. They're a lot softer in tone, a lot more vulnerable, and they remind me of Sherry the Poor Girl. She was a kid when we first met her, and she's older now, technically, but she's still just a kid. She might always be. She's been dealt the worst possible hand out of the deck and forced to remain placid. Maybe there will be kindness for her somewhere, somehow. And when she and Leon see each other again, it seems like that kindness might not be too far away. You look at her and everything she's been through, and you want nothing more than to tell her that it'll all be okay. It won't, probably. But that's not the concern, really. As long as she believes it.
Solitude for the stoic, mirth for the merry, a quiet room for the overwhelmed, arcades for the ADHD, health for the sickly, a big day for Grimly. Good luck, everybody. Good luck, everybody.
No, that's awesome and all, but like, what if it was like 20% more whiny? Yeah, and what if it was like really gospel rock adjacent for some reason? Christmas Island was AJ's fucking, I don't know, like 80th album or something. Released in 2014. I'm doing a bit right now. I really like this album. It is overwhelming in the best sense of the word. The first time I listened to it, I cried, but that also seems to happen with most AJJ albums for me, so. For the record, I'm now going to be talking about the franchise as a whole and not just Resident Evil 6. The very first song on the album, Temple Grandin, is phenomenally catchy and still remains true to the cynicism of the band's typical writing.
Open up your murder eyes and see the ugly world that spat you out. Open up your ugly mouth and sing the words it taught you, spit them out.
Each time wasn't nearly easy now, so open up your murder eye. The world of Resident Evil and its horror is based on the cycles that drive it. The cycles of greed, power, violence. You don't break a cycle and you're stuck in it. That's how it works. And take it from Dylan Blake himself, the antagonist of Death Island. Nobody wins a war. Just because Leon, Jill, and the others are all out killing zombies and evil business tycoons doesn't mean that they're any closer to peace. And the monsters they're shooting used to be regular people. In trying to save the world, they're really just speedrunning Umbrella's goals. They would have died anyways, though, right? What's it matter?
Find a nicer way to kill it. Find a nicer way to kill it. Find a nicer way to kill it.
Sometimes this is the greatest kindness one can bestow upon another, though. A merciful death, a gentle murder. In Resident Evil, when you have seemingly no other choices than pulling the trigger or watching the world burn, you can at least let your justice be swift. Finding an injured deer and snapping its neck instead of letting it suffer. Killing the mother so she isn't forced to eat her own child. There's something kind of polite about it all, is there not? It's a basic kind of human decency in a way that makes the stomach churn. The end of this song transitions cleanly into the next. Children of God. It keeps with the energetic, upbeat sound that complements its absurdist lyrics delightfully.
They found a weird calling card in a puddle of body parts inside a bowl of angel hearts that the children were eating. I was a vampire hunter. I was a pregnant mother. I was the tears shed for the ones that die believing. And the blood collector collected blood. And the cannibals all sang trap la 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 lang.
Do I even really need to explain this one? I mean, the world of Resident Evil is a chaotic one. There's always some shit happening, and it's always drenched in pessimism and, of course, body horror. Raccoon City is a hecatomb, rife with puddles of body parts. Ethan Winters is literally a vampire hunter. There are blood collectors and cannibals. You are never going to make it out alive. You will either be eaten by something bigger or kill yourself first. That might be the best case scenario, in fact. The following track on the album is one you might have actually heard, as it's one of the more popular songs by the band, Cocopelli Face Tattoo.
I was a wheel in a war machine, now I'm a toilet in a restaurant, somebody's gotta do it, I know my place, I was a baby kill in Cadillac, now I'm a drug-induced heart attack, somebody's gotta do it, I know my place.
This is a parallel thematically, again, to the first two songs I mentioned at the beginning of this video. Again, the fact of the matter is that all of the Resident Evil protagonists are just existential serfs. They're wheels in a war machine. Literally. It's the same kind of entrapment as Call of Duty soldiers or, like the real-life military. You might be fighting the bad guys or whatever, but you're only doing it because the ones ordering you to don't want to get their hands dirty. They avoid blood like the plague, but still want it shed. R. Ewan has... Ewan? Sorry, I'm American. I think it's Ewan. R. Ewan has an enthralling video essay on the American military and its propaganda as a whole that says a lot of what I want to say, but better than I could. It's a tough subject. Do you know how many veterans kill themselves? Thousands a year. Over 140,000 since 2001. If it weren't a game franchise, I can almost guarantee you that most of the characters in Resident Evil would have offed themselves given the chance. Hell, Ethan does. And do you want to know why I think he did that? Why he sacrificed himself? To save everyone around him, sure. He wanted to be the hero. But more than that, I think he was just desperate for a way out. And you can't blame him, not really. He'd fought the good fight, and he could have lived a happy life with his family if they all managed to make it out of there, but he wasn't human. He hadn't been for a long time, just like Jill Valentine, just like Rosemary. I would also like to note for educational purposes that the term Cocopelli refers to the Hopi god of fertility. How to pronounce...
Originally located in Arizona, United States. We'll be looking at how to say more native names. Stay tuned.
It's Hopi. So I didn't like that guy's voice. Anyways, the term Cocopelli refers to the Hopi god of fertility. Most contemporary depictions of him are incorrect, as they portray him with a flute despite his actual appearance being much different. His most notable feature is the god of fertility being his erect penis. Fucking rock on, dude. The Cocopelli icon today of an instrument-wielding silhouette is based loosely on imagery of the Hoboken ceramic. Fuck, I don't know how to pronounce that either. I'm so sorry. This is just rife with mispronunciations. Also worth noting is this direct quote from the song's Genius page, specifically for the lines, "They're gonna beat me till I'm black and blue, give me a Cocopelli face tattoo." Presumably, a Cocopelli face tattoo would be a drawing of a penis on someone's face. Not only will the narrator be beaten, but also humiliated. The next song I want to cover is a bit of a doozy. And the chunk of lyrics I want to cite is rather large, so please forgive me. Deathlessness is the third to last track on the album, and these lyrics in particular are so Resident Evil reminiscent that it aches.
What do you have hiding in that sarcophagus? What do you see? Every pattern looks like a swastika. What kind of mercy exists in deathlessness? And how do we breathe in outer breathlessness? How can I learn when I make my body into violence? What do I bring to the table when all we eat is desperate? Can you erase it with a magnet? There was a chainsaw fight, I saw it at the water park, and though the sun is up, it's still getting dark. How can I live, never knowing the beauty of forgiveness?
I know it seems like I'm repeating myself here, and honestly, I for sure am, but Jesus, dude. I want to focus primarily on Claire Redfield, because her character is one of the most fascinating to me by far. That is for the simple fact that she remains kind. Consider this snippet I wrote for her for an old project I scrapped years ago. Claire is a phenomenal character who most people overlook, which is totally dumb and unfair. They forget that she saved Sherry's life, killed William after Annette failed to, took down a whole complex in Code Veronica, and so much more. She's one of the most capable characters in the entire series, and just as importantly, one of the kindest. She's gone through just as much as, if not more than, most others in Resident Evil, but she remains a huge sweetheart. She's also a great caretaker and role model for Sherry. To me, she's the epitome of when you try really hard to befriend the new kid, but they ignore you, and you think that they're just shy, but then they talk to everyone else, and you think, oh, maybe I'm the problem. And so you internalize that forever and try desperately to be friends with everyone, but the relationships keep falling through, and you realize you've never been close with anyone ever. But then she meets Leon and Sherry and Jill and Rebecca, and they see her for who she actually is. And she holds on to them as hard as she can, because she refuses to be alone again. She refuses. She is thus very protective of her loved ones, even occasionally to a fault. Despite how poorly written and organized my thoughts were at the time, I still stand by what I said. Claire is kind despite everything, despite it all. She's violent when she needs to be, but she isn't proud of it. She is one of the most self-aware characters in the entire series. I think she recognizes how ridiculous everything she and the other characters do is, and that's why she works for TerraSave. She heals instead of hurts, at least to the best of her abilities. She recognizes the nihilism of it all. She will not turn out like every other jaded super soldier in her life, including Chris. She refuses. Then the song Temple Grandin 2 follows, and I have no adequate words to preface it.
A Jesus that doesn't want to be a Jesus is given no other choice than to be a Jesus. Understanding life is meaningfully worthless. The world was born to kill all the Jesuses. There's something big and powerful and wise, and it's begging us to end its worthless life. So let's be Temple Grandin for the night and find a friendly way to make it die.
I often think about how many characters in Resident Evil could have been martyred. That's all I have to say. And with that, I have finished covering the second album on my list. There is one more song on Christmas Island, actually, but I'd rather you put some effort in for once and figure out the connections yourself. I'm always the one doing the work around here. Go on then, give it a go. I'll wait. Next on the roster is... Oh no. This album makes me want to die. Okay, I know I say that about like actually everything, but if you've never listened to this album, I'm unsure how to properly convey its weight. Hold on, I'm gonna go get a drink. What y'all know about Calpico, bro? What y'all know about Mango Calpico? I'm the only one drinking out of this, so it's not gross that I'm drinking straight from the thing. Alright, leave me alone. I'm gonna just put this right here. There are 5 million different sounds and emotions all bundled up in a 143-minute package. Remember that AJJ concert I said I went to when I was 16? Out of the cornucopia that was that merch table, I only wanted one album to take home physically. It was this one. If you couldn't tell, I have a flair for the dramatic in everything that I do. My prose is often going to be theatrical and hyperbolic because that is just the way that I am. You do well to take everything I say with a grain of salt. And that being said, none of what I'm saying now is an exaggeration. This album meant the world to me when I first discovered it in the 6th grade. It still does all of these years later. I think it always will. And I think that in of itself is a reason I associate it so heavily with Resident Evil. Because that series also means the world to me, all of these years later. All of the things that I love are tucked neatly within my left breast pocket. They all have something to do with each other. They all mean something.
The Michael Jordan of drunk driving played his final game tonight, emburdened by his loneliness. He wanted to feel alive, his laziness built the pyramids and his solitude was a knife. The Michael Jordan of drunk driving played his final game tonight.
A beautiful opening song, only 22 seconds long. The world's best drunk driver, whose only real merits were his flaws and vices, gets behind the wheel one last time. I'm circling back to Resident Evil 6 now, to point out the fact that when you, the player, die, you respawn from your last save checkpoint because that's how video games work. But in an alternate universe, in one timeline at least, your character stays dead. There is a universe, at least one, in which Chris Redfield dies an uneventful death at the hands of a nondescript zombie or soldier, and that is that. This idea has always stuck with me for all playable characters in all games, but something about it being applied specifically to him, it just irks me. In Adonia, he is nothing short of miserable, a somewhat useless, miserable asshole. And he could have died that way. Chris Redfield could have been remembered as the biggest disappointment the BSAA, or America even, had ever seen. The letdown of a century. It's unnerving to think that maybe, just maybe, he would have deserved it. God, look at the time. Okay, in order for this video to not be 8 years long, I regrettably will have to skim over some of these next songs. Well, right after I go into detail about Gift of the Magi 2, Return of the Magi, because it is an insane song, and I just stuttered over all of my words.
I used to be a dead guy, now I'm a fucking Jedi, and I've got lots of news for you, and I've got a long list of things to do. I used to dwell in the present, I used to be so hesitant, but now I've got my whole life to live, and I've got all my love to give to all you fuckers that I hate.
This song is, overall, very punk rock. It's from the point of view of a narrator who's adopted a kind of fuck everything and fuck you mindset in life, again embodying a kind of explosive cynicism. It's a way of protecting oneself, after all. Inwardly, though, he does still have love for the world around him, even the fuckers he hates. And do you know who else is explosively cynical? Jake Mueller. Okay, I know I've been harping on the subject of Resident Evil 6 for the majority of this video, but when I tell you it's my favorite game ever made, I mean it entirely. I love Resident Evil 6. And I love Jake Mueller. He is a very douchey character, especially at the start of his and Sherry's campaign. He's always complaining and arguing, self-pitying, and generally a major jackass. And to a certain extent, he deserves to be. I mean, his dad is Albert Wesker. That's like, I don't know, having Elon Musk as a father. But his counterpart, Sherry, is absolutely tired of his bullshit immediately. She keeps him in check, and this is exactly why I think Jake becomes so fond of her. She keeps it real with him, which is a privilege he's really never known. He's never had someone in his life to tell him he's really fucking annoying out of genuine love for him. He should hate her, and he probably does, at least briefly. But he loves her more than that.
It's a miracle of science, all this betrayal and violence, and it lives inside us all. It lives inside our heart, just like a stupid fucking tapeworm. Who can we blame? If God doesn't like ugly, then God doesn't like anybody. So fuck God anyway. God is obsolete. Oh, my God thinks my jokes are funny. There is no one to blame. People are just fucking mean.
You get the point. Now, I really do have to reel it in for the sake of time on the analysis front, because I have a lot more to cover, so here's a bit of a rapid fire round. American Tune reminds me of something Shiva Alomar would bitterly associate with Wesker. Backpack is an intensely sad song that sounds like every person who has ever died. Fuck the Devil embodies Leon Kennedy's clinical depression. People 2 Still Peoplin' is holy shit. And Big Bird is holy shit. Okay, holy shit. Okay, let's rewind a tad, because there's no way in hell I'm skipping over Big Bird. It's the ultimate song on the album, and I use that word to mean both of its definitions. This song is a lot, and the words of AJJ themselves. And I can't handle astounding works of beauty. I think I like my pretty, pretty ugly, but the beautiful soul I witnessed in that movie was an entirely different kind of overwhelming. That's a different song, by the way. One off of Christmas Island that I didn't even mention. It's a mammoth fucking song overall, but there's this one line that always gets me. I'm afraid of the social laziness that let Kitty Genovese die. Kitty Genovese's murder occurred in 1964 and is one of the saddest things I've ever heard of. It's just one of those silent, unresolved tragedies. She was raped and stabbed to death outside of her New York apartment complex, the assault witnessed by multiple people. And though the press exaggerated the number of neighbors whose apathy led to her doom, is it not heartbreaking enough that even one person did nothing? The bystander effect is a very real issue that plagues everyone. I'm guilty of it, you're guilty of it, everyone is, and it's debilitating. Now, it would be wildly inappropriate for me to compare this real, actual murder of a real, actual human being to a video game. I'm not mad bad. But luckily, that's not really why I bring it up. In fact, out of all the lines in this song, this is probably the least relevant. I only bring it up because it's the most gut-wrenching, and I figured there's no better way to wrap up my tirade on AJJ. There are a million other songs I could have brought to your attention in this video. How AJJ's getting naked and playing with guns was the perfect image of the stolen childhoods of Resident Evil's children, Sherry and Rosemary. How their song Night of the Long Knives represents the anti-establishmentarianism of the series as a whole and its general disenchantment. The entirety of the albums The Bible 2 and Ugly Spiral. But I think to put an analysis to any more of their songs would be to rid them of their charm. It's the privilege of the listener to discover, and let me tell you, AJJ has a lot to give if you're willing to look. There are more artists to cover, such as the endlessly lovely Jordan Mason. I have a lot to say. I am one step away from being this person's PR manager. I have been listening to Jordan Mason's music for a very long time. They are a gift sent from the heavens when it comes to lyricism. Truly, I cannot think of anyone whose writing style is more poetic, because really, they are more of a poet than they are a singer. Beautiful, simplistic guitar is just a vessel for their prose. It's a lot of metaphors for transgenderism. It's like 90% metaphors for transgenderism. Please excuse this next portion of the video because it will be one giant act of indulgence on my part. But I cannot help myself. Ethan and Mia Winters are the most T for T couple I've ever goddamn laid my eyes on. Before you exit the video, hear me out. Okay, hear me out. Shots. I have a mammoth interpretation of the relationship in the game 7 and 8 based entirely on the album Divorce Lawyers I Shaved My Head. I don't even know where to start. I am just so excited to share this has been brewing for years. Alright, okay. This is a very important construction in my life, and I hope you all find it as fun as I do. Track 1 on the album is Bird's Nest. It's rather self-explanatory if you listen to it, which please do listen to this album if you take away nothing else from this essay. And it is simply a prayer from Ethan.
My mouth is filled with his ovaries. I hold them here between my teeth. Oh, get these birds' nests out of me. Dentists, get these birds' nests out of me. How do you fertilize what cannot be? How do you fertilize what cannot? Dentists, get these birds' nests out of me. My mouth is filled with his ovaries. I hold them here between my teeth. Oh, get these birds' nests out of me. Dentists, get these birds' nests out of me. How do you fertilize what cannot be? How do you fertilize what cannot be? Dentists, get these birds' nests out of me.
Those are all of the lyrics in the song. Brevity is the soul of wit, as they say. And if you know anything about Ethan Winters as a character, you know that he is not human. He is an amalgam of every mistake he and his wife have ever made. How romantic. Track 2 and 3 are extremely beautiful songs that to me just mirror the melancholia of Ethan and Mia's relationship. They're both fucked up, but all they ever wanted was a family. Bad things happen to good people though, so you can only imagine what happens to the morally gray. I'm looking at you, Mia, you poor, poor woman. If it seems like I'm speeding through this album after hyping it up so much, it's because I have 2 specific songs that I want to dissect thoroughly, and that is going to take up a lot of time. The first actually is track 4 on the album, Racehorse Get Married, one of Jordan Mason's most popular songs. It was actually the first I'd ever heard from them. Unlike the bits and pieces I'd been pulling from AJJ's songs, I want to actually go over each section of the song individually to properly do it justice.
You suck like a racehorse. It's your wedding day, your wedding day. Say, yes, you want to be pollinated. Phrase of friction far too sacred. We survive between our hunger, dig our heads into the water.
To start off, Ethan and Mia are married, desperately so. They have nobody else they could be with after everything, and they can't bear to be alone. The other has to say yes, or they're both doomed. There's also a certain clinical sanctity in sex. Remember earlier how I mentioned that there are very few characters in Resident Evil who have canonically had sex? Mia and Ethan are 2 of them, and there's something very fascinating, I guess, about the idea. I'm not a freaking gooner, bro, I swear. There's an actual reason to me bringing this up. I don't think they intended to give birth to Rosemary. In fact, I don't think Mia wanted kids at all. She wanted the intimacy without the consequence. Ethan probably did want to be a dad, but everything is wrong. Everything about it is wrong.
Memorize your casket, your mother patterns, the space between your legs. I grab what's good of you, you pluck fruit from my endless head, rearrange them to make your soul sweat, bite snakes down for better shelter, fridge your orgasm, make it colder.
More sex. It's all starkly anti-utilitarian, all Hail Marys and the like. Sex is their final attempt at being human after everything they've been through. If you think about it, Ethan and Mia are Adam and Eve. Ethan forever atoning for Mia's sins, the greatest of which being a want to be good and holy. In that last line, fridge your orgasm, make it colder, applies the freezing of sperm for use in the future. I like to think that Ethan and Mia were arguing over having a child for months, years even. Mia always conceded soon. She forced out through her teeth, not yet, Ethan. Shelf the idea. Save it for later. Freeze it in the Romanian winter. Let Rosemary be born from Kyun's womb, not any belonging to us.
We put our blood in bags, we don't want water, and you hold me close inside the slaughter, and you look so much better, without that shit in your hair. I mean, saddles, if you need them, but I could ride you there.
More of the same. Always more of the same. Petty arguments between the two because they love each other so viciously. Still, there is tenderness amongst all of the turmoil. From Louisiana to Romania, they are clutching each other, faces grotesque and twisted, lipstick kisses trailing down the groom's neck. Fucking bareback. It's all some kind of love.
And you can swallow shotguns, if you want to. There are bullets in your paintings, if you want them. There are hooks to hang your kill. There are footboards rising upwards, and fields our fathers fled from, and bedrooms we don't dare go to.
It is very odd to me that neither Mia nor Ethan killed themselves. I guess Ethan technically did, as I mentioned earlier, at the end of 8, and held off up until that point for the sake of being a family man. But why didn't Mia? And I say this as a colossal fan of her character. I don't hate her. It's striking to me that she never committed suicide. But what would be the point, I guess, really? Her and her lover are surrounded by blood already. They have built a home on a graveyard. They cannot look each other in the eye. She doesn't have anything to lose, I guess, but she sure as hell doesn't have anything to gain either. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise she's holding close to her chest, a trump card. Her surroundings are always going to be hostile because they are where she is. Everything is always going to want to kill her because she is who she is. Maybe it's easiest or most pious to wait and see if something else will get her first.
I would like a word with you. I would like a word with you.
A simple request. Please, just listen. Ethan can beg as much as he wants, but he is never going to have the happy little family he's dreamt of since forever. Here is a direct quote from Jordan Mason's old Tumblr blog in which they expand on the lyric. Which brings us back to the refrain that is repeated from Racehorse, I would like a word with you. The song is really about exactly that, wanting a word with someone, wanting to occupy a category together, wanting to be finite when nothing is or can be or ever will be finite, wanting to be spoken about together and as together when together is exactly that which is no longer. And all because of fucking categories, and all because of fucking belonging. To this day, I am still very upset about all of this, because what the fuck, how do you love someone?
You can swallow shotguns, if you want to, and you can shed the lines from your songs, take the blankets off, show me under your clothes, the tattoos you don't have, but believe me, your body knows.
Sex, sex, sex. Suicide and sex and intimacy, and skin and skin and skin. You know, I wrote that while simply outlining my thoughts on each section of the song, but I think that conveys the message I want to well enough.
You can swallow shotguns, if you want to. You can swallow shotguns, if you want to. It's your wedding day. Your wedding day. Say yes.
A repeated prayer. Resident Evil is repetitive. To live in its world is to be Sisyphus, trapped in an endless loop of want.
Aprons or rifles, anarchist. Sleep in the slaughterhouses. Quilts quiet made from our spit.
More domesticity while they are actively cogs in a war machine, cooking soup in the kitchen and breaking open a new bottle of wine when their kid is literally a ticking time bomb. Mia wants nothing more than to move on, to forget and forgive and forget, but Ethan won't let her. Multiple times throughout the opening of Resident Evil 8, Ethan is practically begging her to confront what they left behind in Louisiana. I mean, how can she pretend that nothing is wrong when they both know the world is ending and it's both of their faults? Mia reading a bedtime story to Rosemary, Ethan suppressing a shudder. Sunday dinner interrupted by gunshots.
And I am letting all you horses go. I'm letting all you horses go. I'm letting all you horses go. I'm letting all you horses go.
That was Racehorse Get Married, and if you think I sound crazy, you're right. I just have yet to see a romantic relationship in the entire franchise even half as enthralling as theirs. Ethan and Mia are two sides of the same coin, one that's been dropped down the drain and removed from circulation. They really are doomed by the narrative. Please excuse my writing style, by the way. I realize it's turned into free verse poetry as most of my thoughts do. I'm not a good essayist. Songs 5 through 8 on this album are relevant, but not enough for me to really indulge in given the time constraints. The 9th track, Blank is Water, is worth more time than I'm able to provide, so please just look at the Genius page. Honestly, you'll understand. You get it. The next song, Smother, is about a very real personal experience of Jordan Mason, so I will not be comparing it to a horror action game. Shocker, I know. Sorry to disappoint. Next, though, we do have the second song on my autopsy list. Wild Dog's Divorce. which is coincidentally also one of my favorite songs of all time. I warn you right now, this is going to be one big jerk-off and a one-way trip into yaoi hell. I apologize for nothing. This is an AU I've built specifically around this song and not actually based off of the canon events of the games. And I do prefer Mia and Ethan's relationship to all others, but I have a soft spot for Ethan and Heisenberg. So, I'm a Fuja, what can I say? Fully grown man with big balls.
We went behind the old house, offered our skin, removed it from our branches, and let it be curtains, and I asked him where he put the bones, and I asked her where she put the bones. They fed them to the horses.
Much like before, this interpretation begins with Ethan and Mia marrying. Though the norms of other relationships don't exactly apply to them, they still try to fit into the trope of the nuclear little family. The bones here symbolize that fey normality, the horses being a society that expects it. Neither of them feel quite human, and this uncertainty can be extended to their gender identities as well if you see fit. I do. Mia is bleakly susceptible to every weapon turned on her, and Ethan cannot die. Mia is infected and the perfect host. Ethan is Frankenstein's monster. Whether you headcanon the two as transgender or not, you have to concede that they have both very clearly grown tired of the bodies they inhabit, these ugly shells constantly betraying them.
We shivered and kissed our Linian loud, and held the Holy Spirit in our mouths, and my beard did break when it found his face, and my beard did break when it found her face.
More of the same. I also want to mention that the switching between his and her pronouns could be Ethan switching between talking about Heisenberg and Mia. A specific line I'd like to point out is held the Holy Spirit in our mouths, which symbolizes the infection in both of them.
But there's still one light in one house, far in fields from the city. One light is a forest fire left running in the pantry. One light is a campfire in the living room for reptiles who promise they'll make new skin between the wars at nightfall.
These lines discuss their move to Romania, the one light being their last hope, and the reptiles representing either the foes they encounter or even the BSAA agents meant to look after them.
Wild dogs, can I confess, I never wanted this marriage. Coming home to wife and kids, and failed science experiments, tear down all the laundry lines. Get the sickness out of me.
This verse is rather on the nose in this context. Ethan never wanted his marriage to turn out like this. Things could have been so much better if they just stayed in their honeymoon phase, which is lifetimes away now. He wanted Rosemary, but never wanted her to be infected or born the way she was into the world she was. He begins to grow resentful, mourning what he could have had if he never went to Louisiana, never saved Mia. And the last line is both metaphorical and literal. Literally, he finds out he's essentially a zombie made out of mold and resents his form. Metaphorically, he resents everything wrong with him in his life. Fix it. For God's sake, fix him.
And we danced to Cecilia, like I did with my mother, stomping loud. We filled the kitchen up with each other. We shaved our heads clean, and left off the lighthouse, kept clothes for ransom, while he pulled the lakes out.
Back to reminiscing on all of the beauty that existed in Mia and Ethan's relationship before everything went wrong. The last line refers to Ethan's eventual turn to Heisenberg for the love that he craves. This is where, artistic liberties of mine make themselves known, but please bear with me. I know I say that a lot.
And he confessed a gravedigger shared with him his bed, and I pulled the telephones right out of his head. He quit his job, pulled his teeth, and moved down to the harbor. He stole all my money to pay for the lawyers, and now he's a whale killer in the wasteland for hire. He can only get it up when you set him on fire.
This one absolutely necessitates multiple breakdowns. Ethan considers Mia a gravedigger. She essentially was the catalyst for Ethan's death in the long run, and the suffering of Rose, and the deaths of countless others. The third line again refers to their move to Romania. The lawyers here would be divorce lawyers. I think that Ethan had been planning to divorce Mia for a long time, since they escaped Louisiana, in fact. Him being a whale killer refers to him killing lichens. In fact, it refers to everything he's killed, and now in Romania, the wasteland. After being so broken down for so long, he's like a machine. He might as well be for hire. And he kind of is, if you consider that he's sort of just an honorary agent of the BSAA. I also feel obligated to mention that the term whale killer could also be killer whale, or even remain the same if you think about whale killer being the original nickname for orcas. Regardless, Ethan is the whale killer here. He is the apex predator. He tore down Miranda's empire with ease. He's an unstoppable force. It's just a shame that Mia is an immovable object. He can only get it up when you set him on fire. Which is to say that he only feels worth in his pain. Mia only loves him in ways that hurt. You can't entirely blame her, though. No one is the only way she knows how to love.
And now my bashed head can sow his blood on my back. We are broke for bricks, and the house is quiet. And I asked him where he put the bones, and I asked her where she put the bones. They fed them to the horses.
At last, Ethan and Mia break apart, having broken each other unfixable. Neither knows what they want, only that they never got it. Rosemary growing up with either parent in this context is a tragedy in of itself. And of course, finally, there's a callback to the first verse. Everything is cyclical. We've been over this. There's a reason they named the virus Ouroboros. And there you have it. 4-ish albums that go hand in hand with Resident Evil in my mind. And the reasons why. This might have been one of my most self-indulgent videos, certainly one of my most pretentious, but it's also been one of the ones that I've been most excited to write. Resident Evil is a funky series that is canonically mentioned Breaking Bad, is full of awful lines that should have stayed in the writing room, and has some of the most cliche writing I've ever seen. Resident Evil Darkside Chronicles might actually be one of the worst games I've ever played released by a major studio. And the fucking show, dude. Oh my god, the show. The show. This series also means more to me than I could ever express. So I hope you like what I had to say. If not, I hope you like the tunes. Before you support me, go support these artists. I am praying this doesn't age poorly, but for what it's worth, I think even the worst people on earth can make good art, and I'd die for Jordan Mason either way. There are also a ton of other songs I didn't mention in this video simply because of time, but I'd still like to share them with you, so thus I will be making a Spotify playlist and linking it down below. It is Spotify for ease of access, don't burn me at the stake, please, but I hope that if you want to support these artists, you find better means of supporting them. They deserve it. I also want to thank you if you've made it this far, and thank you for your support on the last video. It's always been my dream to share my hyper-specific ramblings with the world because I think the poetic and factual aren't enough intertwined. With that, I bid you adieu. Good morning, good night, and good luck.